screaming and no.
I said, no offense. I said, why are you penalizing people who are just now building? I said, you got to build under all these old rules. It's not my business, but
Didn't know we had that
welcome to
many.
the neighborhood. Screw you.
Several of those communities have gotten so tough that it's like we got ours. We keep you from getting rid of shit.
Right. Yeah.
Mine's 20 now, so good luck.
Which isn't fair to the lot owner who found out that they're no longer relocated here. Their grandkids didn't move to the area, or
That
they're
one
moving
will check.
away.
Well,
There is
they bought 10 years ago under these
about that
rules, and now here are the new rules.
I didn't think about that.
Oh, we're trying to.
Because of after Monday's interaction.
I see
and
one.
backup, things of that nature, I didn't wanna,
Seneca.
right after,
show
it
drainage.
said backup has to be up by Wednesday.
Because
Yeah, we have an
guys
idea
are
where we're gonna go, but we
So I
don't
got
know
that language
until we
right now, I
get things
did
graded
put
out.
it in there, but upload it.
And,
Rebellious.
and I said, you're just, I said, don't even cost these people more money. To me, that's not being a
Says
good
5
business.
minutes.
And
What are we gonna do today?
I
I
don't
mean,
know
it's
if I
finished
just
to
care,
3 days.
I don't care. But it's just like,
Yeah.
That's what I did.
he was getting into
He the oldest.
I'd like to call to order the first meeting of the Oklahoma County Planning Commission for the year 2018, date Thursday, January 11th, 2018. We'll begin with the invocation by the county chaplain, which is myself. Pray with me if you'd like. Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this new year. Thank you for the new opportunities that you present to this deliberative body to do good things, to help with important issues that affect everyone throughout the county. It's something that is very precious to people, which is their property, which is their neighbor's property, which is county property. And this commission plays a vital role, we know, in the planning of the use of that and bringing some concert to the laws applicable to that, and a lot of very intricate and difficult issues, and really, I trust, can only be handled well through your wisdom. So I ask for that for tonight and for this year, that you'd preside over the meetings, that you would give us your mind, you'd help us to be not quick to anger, not quick to speak, but quick to listen and quick to learn. I pray that we would have that love for our neighbor as we make decisions, as the staff can help the commission, and we just proceed along in a kind fashion. And in your name I pray. Amen. Mr. Chapman, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Certainly.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I believe the commissioners have in front of them the meetings from our last, the minutes from our last meeting, which was December 18th, 2017. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Can I?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The first one that caught my eye was I'm a PH instead of an F in the first paragraph.
I'm sorry, could you make a motion to approve in a second, and then we'll have discussion on
Oh,
changes of the
okay,
minutes?
yes, sir. Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Well, you had a discussion.
Now,
Oh, okay, discussion, yes,
that.
sir. Did you find the PH?
yes,
Yes, sir. And then about halfway down, number 8, they weren't any updated information. That should read there wasn't any updated information for the agriculture section.
yeah,
All right,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
then at the bottom, I did not state that the planning commission doesn't have the authority to make the decisions. I feel like we don't have the know-how or knowledge or expertise.
knowledge.
And I think that was it.
Are there any
Thank you.
objections to the corrections made by Ms. McPhail? Any other discussion or necessary amendments to the meeting minutes?
I have one. In section 7, it said, after the 25th of January would be the days and go back to the 2nd and 4th Mondays, starting in February. we were on the first and third, is it second and fourth we're gonna move through, or first and third?
Be first and third.
Okay.
No objections to that change? Any other discussion or amendments?
Thank you for catching that.
Good catch.
Yes, definitely.
Call in for a vote for approval of the minutes as amended. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 7-0, I believe. Next is public comment. We have no one signed up. Does anyone wish to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes for agenda or non-agenda items? All right, following that, we have the staff update.
I asked Mr. Blackwell from Oconee Economic Alliance for a list of upcoming projects. The list before I put it on your desk there of the upcoming projects that are being occurring in Oconee County. You all had asked for a little more knowledge of what's going on, so these are the big projects that are happening, where they are inside of their respective, time frames. And I'll do my best to keep up with him, if not on a weekly, maybe a monthly or a bi-monthly, try to get lists like this going for y'all, so you can know what the big projects are. Now, if there's any other projects y'all want to be kept abreast of, let me know.
That it?
That's all I got.
We'll move on to the vote for the chairperson and the vice chair. Taking the vote for the chairperson first. Address to the commission what I've relayed to council, and it's gone different ways. If you have more than one nomination for the chairperson, so that you have more nominations than you have positions, there's 2 ways to handle it. One would be the first person nominated would be voted upon, and then the second person. Another way to handle it would be ballots, and Adam's prepared some ballots for your use. It's really up to y'all. If we do have 2 nominations, we can decide at that point. The only, I'm not even going to call it an unfairness, there's a bit of a bias perhaps that parliamentarians say exist with the nomination method and then a verbal vote, and that folks have to vote against the first person nominated. I've never seen it really work in unfairness, but folks do say that, so I felt obliged to relay that to you. Because of that, with the council, I've used this method before, and they hated it, and so I've never gone back to do it. We just did the nomination method. Leave it up to you. All right. So then, we'll take nominations for the chairperson. Do you have a nomination?
I'd like to nominate Brad as chairman.
Thank you, sir. We do not need a second. Do we have any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Frankie.
Mr. Pearson's also nominated for chairperson. Any additional nominations? All right, so we do have 2 nominations for 1 seat. So what I spoke of before applies. You can do it one of 2 ways. Mr. Kisker was nominated first, so you'd have just a voice vote like you do for all of your motions for Mr. Kisker's election. If he receives a majority, then the voting is done. If he doesn't receive a majority, then the voting proceeds to Mr. Pearson. You would think he would receive a majority at that time, but if he does not, for some reason or another, we would start over again. That's the first method. Mr. Kisker, first nominated, vote on him. Second method would be to use the ballots. Again, it's not done anonymously in the end, but it is done anonymously when you cast your vote, meaning we'll give these to you. It has everyone's name on it, but it's just going to be Mr. Pearson and Mr. Kisker that you would circle. You'd circle one or the other. Then you'll need to sign your name at the bottom so we know how you voted, because this is subject to the Freedom of Information Act, public meeting, and your votes need to be recorded as to whom you voted for. So, option number 1, voice vote in order. Mr. Kisker first. Option number 2, the ballot method. Can we just have a showing of hands on who wants to do it by the ballot method? It's clear. Anyone want to do it by the second method? That's how the council did it. All right, so then, nomination for Mr. Kisker will be the first one you voted on. All in favor of Mr. Kisker as the chairperson, please signal by a raise of the hands and an aye.
Aye.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Aye. If you can record the votes, that's Ms. Lyles, Mr. Graham, and Mr. Kisker in favor.
Yes, sir.
All right, since we do not have a majority of the 7, we'll proceed to a vote for Mr. Pearson. All in favor, please signal so by a raise of the hands and an aye.
Aye.
All right, that's 4, that is a majority. Remaining members of the commission. Does anyone wish to change their vote? All right, as retiring temporary chairperson, then I'll close the vote for the chair. Mr. Pearson is now the chairperson. I was gonna hand you the gavel, I usually do that. I don't have it now. Mr. Pearson is now the chairperson. You'll run the meeting from this point on. First order of business will be the election of a vice chairman. You run it the same way I just did there.
Okay, do we have any nominations for vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Brad.
Any other nominations? Since Brad is the only nominee, do we still have to take a vote? Okay. All those in favor of Brad as vice chair, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous? Okay.
Mr. Pearson, as I alluded to earlier, I'm going to step out.
Okay. Have fun.
Have a very productive meeting. Congratulations to your new offices.
Good luck.
Thank y'all.
All right. Item number 8 is discussion on the comprehensive plan review. Adam, do you want to?
Sure. So the land use, so we had 2 elements left, the priority investments and land use. Priority investments, I was unable to get done completely because they're working on the budget for the county, so that took priority. So I have the land use element here, so we'll be at least one more meeting before I have the priority investment. So land use element is interesting, but it's also weird because it was done by a consultant, probably cost upwards of $10,000-$20,000 using the $150,000 flyover they did of the county. They fly a plane at low levels back and forth over the entire landmass taking pictures. The consultant group then sat down with a team of probably interns and said, that's a farm, that's a business, that's a house. And that's how they came up with the current land use map that's in there, as well as kind of worked on the future land use map. I'm not equipped to do that right now, and that may be a good thing to do for the 2020, we'll be required to do it for the 2020 update. So basically, Bill and I went through and did as much as we could to the land use element. We did some editing, we added some major projects that have occurred in the last 10 years. That's this blue chart there, that's I believe on the 3rd page of it. And then Lisa Simmering mapped it for us to show where the big projects were. That's really the big addition to the land use element. Everything else, we kind of have to, we'll have to move some, either find out that if you want us to do it ourselves in-house, we can work towards that over the next couple of years of getting it done, or we can go the consultant route, but that discussion's probably for another time. We did just knock out stuff that doesn't work, that doesn't speak to the goals of the land use element. The big thing is on the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. How do I say it? Because I didn't put page numbers on here. Growth management title. It's about, it's this page. You see this page? It says this, and it has all those stars next to it. The very next page after it has the information about the control-free district. This was the same language that Mr. Root recommended we put in the housing element, so they match. Previously didn't have this information inside of the parentheses. So what this would do is this would, A, change it, so A, put it in concert with the other land use element, other housing element, as well as allow for setbacks inside the control-free district. That's the big kind of thing that if you were gonna get lost in the weeds here. That's the one thing I really wanted to point out to you. This is the same exact language you put in for the housing element. And you're looking, as you're looking for it in your papers, I realize it's not on your papers, because I didn't get that information until this afternoon. So, sorry for telling you to look for it on your papers. Anybody have any questions or comments about that?
Sounds good.
This doesn't allow anything extra than already exists. It doesn't open up any really doors. It says apart from setback requirements, to the extent they are considered use limitations. And that's it. We're not trying to put one over anyone. Other than that,
One little tiny thing at the bottom of that, under other efforts, I'm sorry, but.
This one?
the School teacher popped out in.
No, where is it?
In the blue part, under that, these initiatives, right there to the right, go right there. See that little initiative? You can't have these and one initiative. You need an S on the end of it.
I thank you for taking that, because Grammarly did not pick that up. How did you pick that up?
I'm sorry, my daddy was.
Don't apologize, it's like a superpower. Should be pluralized. Gotcha. And that's really all I had. Does anybody have any questions regarding the land use map or anything like that, or land use element?
Okay, we need a vote on this?
Don't have to vote on it, no. I'm gonna, once I package this all together, I'm gonna clean it up, work on cleaning up all the other elements. We'll get priority investments in here, hopefully for next meeting. After that, I'll get you a new reviewed comprehensive plan, and then you all will vote on sending the entire package to council at once.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, we can move on to discussion on priority items for 2018.
Okay, so I've included two items here, the section 32.4 of our code, which is the planning commission. That's what you all are. I figured this is the legal basis for your all's existence here, as well as functions, powers, duties, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I just thought that you all should have that. That's just my personal opinion on it. Because I can handle the backup, you have it. You all look through that at your own leisure. I did include the goals section. That's the extra 20-odd pages in your package. The goals section is if we're going to say the planning commission is going to do X this year, it should have roots inside of the comprehensive plan. So however you can connect saying you want to do housing or corridors or the vegetative buffer, it needs to be somehow connected, it should be somehow connected to the comprehensive plan that was laid out. So if we're gonna say we wanna do something, it should go to the comp plan. These are the goals from the comp plan. So if individually or as a whole, you all had said, hey, I really think we should have affordable housing in the county. We need to look and see the comp plan where it addresses that, and then say that should be a goal for the planning commission. You all can vote on that kind of thing to set some things in motion, or you don't really have to vote on it and you can do it. But I think a vote may be prudent, but you can decide that in the future.
So we don't need to address all these pages of.
That's right.
things where we are. That will be what we will address as we rewrite the comprehensive plan in 2020.
No, so this is more along the lines, so this is just the first page. And I highlighted all the things that identified when I sat with the administration as the things on the planning commission to-do list. So just taking the very first thing, expand sewer services throughout areas designated by the land use element as primary areas of development. Okay. As a group, you all say, okay, well, we need to do a study of those areas. Okay, well, tell me to do a study of those areas, and we can send it up to council. If there's any sort of thing we can codify, either through land use or what have you, that we can make into a code and send it to council that speaks to expanding the sewer service, there you go. So I just worked and I highlighted all the stuff that said planning commission to-do list. And this is just the first page of that, of the goals. Or the third page, I guess. And I just went through it and I just highlighted. Now this goals section you've already seen. This goals element you've already had before. I'm just bringing it back to you again because pertinent at this point in time, if you all wanna set goals or talk about things that you all wanna get done as a group this year.
Excuse me. Thank you.
So,
Want to have any specific goals that they think we need to tackle in the near future?
At the bottom of page 8 there,
sure.
the capital projects plan,
Mm-hmm.
the county did away with the capital project plan advisory board last year.
Correct.
So that should probably, that would be related to that, would it not, or?
Right, so the planning commission could go ahead and say, okay, well, we're not gonna have a group, as a planning commission, we're gonna come up with a capital projects plan. And so I haven't addressed these thoroughly at all, but you could say, okay, well, identify what needs to be upgraded. You know, kind of thing. You don't have to look at it as a whole, you can look at pieces of it that may assist, and maybe talk to your council members and see what they're looking for, and, you know, if you wanted to address it like that. Or if we wanted to knock that off the goal section, that's what this review's for. If we think that's something to knock off, we can.
Well, if we came up with a list of capital projects, there's nobody to really advise, since they did away with the committee.
Right, it's now on you, if you so choose to do it. If you think that would be something that would be beneficial for the group to tackle.
Why did they disband the committee?
Maybe Mr. Gisker knows, I'm not sure.
I was on it, and it was very difficult to get people to come, to be willing to serve on it, and to be there on time, every time. And most of the things were quite frequently ongoing anyway. So, you know, we scored them and said, patted people on the back and said, that's great, but it was a 2 or 2.5 hour meeting in the mornings that wasn't really doing a whole lot, to be honest.
What they said at the meeting was, if I remember correctly, is this committee was set up before the 1-cent sales tax was put on the ballot, and that's what it was there for, to come up with the capital projects. And once it did its job and everything got started, and then it couldn't get people to come to meetings either, so they disbanded it at that time.
What about the community facilities plan? Since that doesn't exist either.
You're talking.
Objective 11.
Objective 11, okay, 7. Under which goal, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's, page 23, or excuse me, 21.
Review and update community facilities plan. Okay, so there's no community facility plan, so you all could come up with one, if you so choose. I mean, that's really it. If the subcommittees have been disbanded, these still sit as reachable things. Now, whether you choose to reach for them at the moment is not. Things that have been, like, there's a couple of these that, like, the entities that had to do them no longer are in business, or that need has been met. You know, like Atlanta's, we're no longer in a 10-year drought kind of thing. So there's certain things that can be easily pushed aside. This was a goal that was set up. You can choose to tackle it or not.
Is this the time to, because I had looked at the same thing and said, why is that the responsibility of the planning commission and the county council if A, it doesn't exist, and B, most of the communities, right, are actually municipalities, therefore we have no control over them. And for me, I was like, do the communities or municipalities not need to be tasked with that responsibility?
Certainly, so the community facilities could be such as, like, this building is a community facility.
Okay, so it applies to counties as well?
Yeah, it's definitely it's the county community facilities that we have, so such as the fire stations. I think the community facilities element in this speaks mostly to healthcare and personal care, but also libraries, community facility as well. So basically anything the public can reach out and touch. anything brick and mortar that the public can touch. So you all can make a plan for that, create the plan, and say, okay, we need another library. You know, let's talk to the library board, they probably know better, and we could do something about that if you so choose. Or if you don't so choose.
Well, as I say, if you don't have number one, then you don't need number two,
That's correct.
On page 50.
or number three.
On
Right,
page
yeah, they are.
15,
15?
create a housing task force for nonprofit housing agency or trust. That's something we might ought to look into. We're always having a problem with affordable housing in the county, so this would help that. We would set something up. Maybe get some affordable housing, get some people that are interested in building that to help some of our citizens in the county that would have a little better place to live than under the bridge.
Would it be helpful if we came back at the next meeting and said, perhaps gave a list of things that we had questions or concerns about off of this list, even though we've had this before, it's kind of been on the back burner.
Yeah.
And so now we might have, would that help if we brought that, say, to the next meeting?
So for the goals element itself, without looking at what to do with the goals element, just for the goals element itself, yeah, that'd be super helpful. That's, yeah, this is why I'm glad you're looking at it another time. If there's things you think need to be changed on this, definitely we can do that, 100%.
Would that suit y'all, to look at that and come back
Absolutely.
with some things?
Great idea.
Okay, we'll come back to that at another meeting. Item number 10, discussion on staff traffic research.
All right, so, I've run across some very, like, I'm looking at traffic accidents, how many people die. It's a drinking night. But there's just some interesting things I've included. The first thing, there's this traffic safety facts from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. The big thing is that rural areas are populated by about 19% of the population. So roughly 20% of America lives in rural areas, but they make up 51% of the traffic fatalities. And I'm sure you all can guess the various reasons why, but that's what occurs. So we've had 423 fatalities in Oconee County since 1993, 2017.
90% of the fatalities?
Sorry?
Is that what you said, 90%?
No, so 20% of the population is rural, they make up 51% of the fatalities, which is, it shouldn't be that way. And seatbelts are a huge part of it. And there was 2 more this year already. I was looking in the news. So it's a lot. So this is my, 49%, not 51%, I'm sorry, and that was in 2015. But these are local wrecks, all these pictures up here are local out of the independent. There's been a 27% increase in road deaths in the past 3 years, from 2014 to 2016, in South Carolina as a whole. So South Carolina has pretty dangerous roads in general. This is the summary year by year from 2012. These are the fatal collisions right here. Injuries, property damage, total collisions, people killed, people injured. Strictly looking at it from a not, that many people died kind of thing, like 17, 20 people died. It costs the county a lot of money as a whole as well. It's something to look at. Every person who doesn't go to work costs employers. Every time emergency services has to be dispatched, it costs a lot of money. So it's not a comfortable way to look at traffic fatalities, but it's definitely something to be taken into account. And this information came from Department of Safety, who I also have a FOIA request out, because we were tasked by, and Mrs. Kamick sent an email, said, hey, look at safety and traffic on 123. I was like, well, why don't I just look at safety and traffic and see where the car accidents are? What if 123 is safe? I mean, I don't know that, but what if it is? What if all the accidents are 11 or 28 or somewhere else? So hopefully by the time that FOIA request gets processed from highway safety, I should have a map, a heat map to show you all of where the traffic accidents do occur in this county. And that should be a good baseline starting point for you all to start coming up with some ideas.
And when they talk about those locations, do they also talk about reasons why? I mean, is it that we're
Definitely.
having a higher aged population, or are they gonna be able to come up with some theory as to reasoning?
Certainly.
Student populations moving farther over into the county, you know?
You know,
some
so all
basis.
those things are, so the average person who gets in a traffic accident in South Carolina is a mid-20s white male. But the most dangerous areas are within 2 and 10 miles of cities for the rural folks. So it's a combination of not wearing seatbelts, which is a huge thing. That's the one pedestrian that got killed, not pedestrian, one passenger got killed, last week, wasn't wearing a seatbelt. That's a big thing. Alcohol obviously plays a factor. We have higher speed roadways. You know, you on the road, when you all go home tonight, you're probably not gonna run a lot of traffic. And I'm sure you all go the speed limit, but some people don't. It's all those same factors, you know, just unsafe driving habits and things of that nature. So, the South Carolina Department of Highway Patrol has this Goal Zero right here. And it's an increased presence, you know, it's a combination of extra ticketing, extra enforcement, but signage, education, things of that nature to get people out. And goal zero is to zero fatalities on the road. So that's something else that I've talked to there, or I've emailed out a couple questionnaires, like, if we find we have need for this, what's the steps that it takes to get Highway Patrol to come out here and set up a goal zero? And then this is just the rest of the information that I'm looking for to get you all some baseline information on as far as what other people are doing. Cause I think Mr. Kister said last meeting, we can't address 123 without looking at Clemson and Seneca and Westminster and, our sister county in Georgia, cause it's, you know, we don't exist in a vacuum. So is there other information that you all would think of that'd be good for traffic and safety as far as that goes? Sir?
I'd like to point out from your thing that, that 49%, rural fatalities is nationwide. South
Correct.
Carolina's 72%. And I would be interested in knowing what the percentage was in Oconee County. Now, I do understand that
Yes.
the state, the Highway Patrol is adding troopers this year, intending on having better patrolling of the rural areas because of this high percentage.
Yeah, you know, definitely. And if there's some way we can reach out and combine with our sheriff's office and highway patrol, and that's just part of it, because we can't, no more can we reduce curb cuts, and that's gonna reduce fatalities, then we're going to dump a whole bunch of money in a short-term policing project that's gonna reduce fatalities long-term. It's gonna be a combination effort. We're gonna have to pull in, everyone's gonna have to come to the table and say, this is enough. I mean, there was two major accidents right in front of the Walhalla High School last year, right there on 11. And it didn't involve students from there. I mean, not that somehow makes it better, but like, you know, you would think if it happens from a high school, it happens by the students, but it's not. Yeah, so we definitely have a traffic fatality issue and accident issue in this county, state. So that's what I'm looking for. If y'all have any other, things that you'd like for me to look up or include when I get you something, please let me know. But things just take time to get, like the FOIA request. I'm trying to get where they at least show all those traffic tickets too, see where people are speeding.
Is there any way to find out why it went from 21 in 2012 to 3?
Three, I saw that as well, and I was assuming there's a ghost in the data, but maybe, I don't know, maybe the year got shorter? I don't know.
You gotta wonder.
No, it definitely looks like it's an outlier. It's only, but 6 people died that year, and that's,
Well, but there's not that much difference between the total collisions. It's
yeah,
just
you're right.
the fatalities.
Yeah, the fatal collisions
So
were
maybe
far
they
less.
had a wear your seatbelt campaign in all the school. I mean, I don't know, but, you know,
That's, I mean, I didn't think to look for the reason why, I thought it was bad data, honestly. But maybe it's just, it is, but I mean, we're already up 2 this year. We're in the second week of the year. So,
Well, that's why I was like,
yeah,
Lady Vera and the guy that works for us.
everyone okay?
Her car's not too good, but
But not, oh, sorry.
as far as I know, everybody's okay.
So she's only got only one column.
Any other discussion? Any old business? Okay, any new business? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Okay.
We are so adjourned.